Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce myself. My name is Ramla from Class B English Education Department 2019, Universitas Sulawesi Barat. The colonial and early national period 17 countries to 130. The first European settlers of North America wrote about their experiences starting in the 1600s. There was the earliest American literature, practical, straightforward, often derivative of literature in Great Britain, and focused on the future in its earliest day. During the 1600s, American literature consisted mostly of practical non-fiction writing by British settlers who populated the colonies that would become the United States. John Smith wrote his stories of Virginia based on his experiences as an English explorer and a president of the Jamestown colony. A new era began when the United States declared its independence in 1776, and much narrating addresses the country's future. American poetry and fiction were largely modeled on what was being published overseas in Great Britain, and much of what American readers consumed also come from Great Britain. By the first decades of the 19th century, truly American literature began to emerge, though still derived from British literary tradition. The short story and novel published from 118 and 118 and 20 began to depict American landscape in a represented manner. The Romantic period 1830 to 1870. Romanticism is a way of thinking that follows the individual over the group, the subjective over the objective, and a person's emotional experiences over reason. It also follows the wilderness of nature over human order. Romanticism as a worldview took hold in Western Europe in the late 18th century, and American writers embraced in it in the early 19th century. The modernist period 1910 to 1945 advanced in science and technology in Western countries rapidly intensified, and the start of the 20th century and brought about essence of unprecedented progress. The devastation of World War I and the Great Depression also caused widespread suffering in Europe and the United States. The contradictory impulses can be found swirling within modernism, a movement in the arts, definite spheres, and foremost as a radical break from the past. But this break was often an act of destruction, and it caused a loss of faith in traditional structures and beliefs. Despite, or perhaps because of these contradictory impulses, the modernist period proved to be one of the richest and most productive in American literature. The contemporary period, 1945 to present, the United States, which emerged from war to confident and economically strong, entered the Cold War in the late 1940s. This conflict with the Soviet Union shaped global politics for more than 4 decades, and the prospects, warmth, and dread of nuclear annihilation that come to define it were just some of the influences shaping American literature. During the second half of the 20th century, the 1950 and 60 brought significant cultural shift within the United States, driven by the civil rights movement and the women movement. Narrative American and colonial literature. What types of writing were popular during the early days of the United States? In this lesson, we'll look at their major contributors of 17th and 18th century American writing in more detail. No, Native American oral stories, Puritan right, and early American political writing. The romantic part in American literature and art. This video introduces American romanticism and movement where literature focuses on intuition, imagination, and individualism. Authors such as Washington Irving, James Fenimore Cooper, and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow contributed to what became known as the American identity, as the new country did its best to distance itself from European tradition. Transcendentalism: impact of American literature. This video defines transcendentalism and literary movement of the mid-19th century. Authors such as Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Walt Whitman uses their literary platforms to encourage Americans to transit society presumption and create impersonal, progressive relationship with spirituality and nature. The literary resilience movement, a response to Romanticism in this legend, They will learn about relations in American literature, how those neo-literary movements grew out of Romanticism, and what circumstances in our changing nation made that literacy possible.